Hey guys, Orca, welcome back to the Greatest Attorney Chronicles. Let's carry on where we left off. I am so sorry for the constant parade of interruptions that seem to be hitting this series, from financial year end at my job to COVID to having a literal baby in the middle of the series. I am committed to seeing this through to the end, and we're so close. We've got Egret Benedict, also known as Ashley Graydon, also known as Ashley Milverton, on the ropes. Gregson is panicked as all hell, trying to conceal state secrets of sorts. This is basically me rambling to try and remember what's going on, but I think I've got the gist of it. Gregson, answer, now. This young lad wants to tone down his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, if it'll put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement, then I'll happily submit to a body search. Uh-oh. Okay. What? He's going to agree to it? He's calling my bluff. Well, I'm not bluffing. I presume you're aware of the precipice on which you now teeter, my learned student friend. You've made a most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If, following the search of the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found, you will be deemed unfit for court service, this trial will end, and my country's government will formally demand of yours that you are severely reprimanded. What, because I slandered Scotland Yard? Jeez, you know how many people hate on the police? That sounds serious. Indeed. To have a visiting student make such defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook. Oh, sorry, I said something disparaging about Scotland Yard.
You're just threatening Reno because you're scared.
The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences. It's true. I can't imagine Gregson would have accepted a gentleman's agreement for something so critical. The disc must have physically changed hands, which means the inspector should have it. But somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. What did he do? Did he, like, toss it behind his back somewhere into the bin or something? Very well, counsel. You know the implications, so let me ask you one final time. Yes, my lord. Do you still persist in formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects? I don't think he's got it on him. He said it quite boldly. It has to be somewhere else. But who did he pass it off to? Search someone else, please. Yes, the defense formally demands the search be conducted. Well, don't say you weren't warned. But your typical Nipponese stubbornness may well land you in hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good. Fair enough. I've got nothing to hide. You don't. Very well then. Bailiff, conduct a search on the inspector's personal effects, please. I didn't say it. Oh god, no. The defense demands a search, but not of Inspector Gregson. I'm sorry, this should be a more powerful moment, but my palms, they failed me. What? Now what's all this? I submitted a body search. I'm ready to tear my shirt off. I'm the one you're accusing, aren't I? I thought you wanted to search me. I'm onto you. No, Inspector, not you. Somebody else. Who? I'm still working on that, but, you know, I've bought myself some time, and I'm gonna see how panicked you are. What's the meaning of all this, eh? Lost it at last, have you, sunshine? The court shouldn't have to put up with this nonsense. You're being completely irrational. Be quiet, all of you. Who was that? Iris, of course.
Reno's doing what you all told him to do and having the courage of his convictions. So you should respect that and listen to what he has to say in good faith. If you think he's wrong, just wait for him to fuck up. Obviously. Sorry, forgive my potty mouth. I'm only 10 years old.
Is she 10? Wait, I should check her. I should check her age. Iris is... Oh, wow. Okay, I got it. I got it right.
Because that's the British way.
Huh? Yeah. That's the British way, of course. Well said, young lady. Yes, we are British, and he's a Nipponese man. We should be showing off our customs, so he stops mocking us. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words. Oh my god, please stop blowing smoke up my ass. Oh, we're in awe of your convictions. Oh, we respect it so much, your convictions. Get out of here. You what? No, don't be hasty, my lord. If I'm not mistaken about the things I've seen in court today, I'm fairly sure that I know who has that disc at the moment. There's only one person it can be. Counsel, of whom do you request the search now? He did not give it back, did he? God, I can't remember. It's been so long. Okay, well, I don't see any point in handing it back to Graydon. So let's say it's Nash Skulkin, because he's right beside him, right?
Take that!
Oh, my lord. Mr. Nash Skulkin! Well, I never. But why? Why pass it to him? He's a crook. Blimey. Me? To him? Very well then, bailiff. Restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects.
Hold it!
Please, my lord.
What?
Please, I need to show off my six-pack abs. You wouldn't believe it with the amount of wedges I eat, but I swear to you they exist. Inspector? Scotland Yard has to object to this search.
Objection!
Well, I object to your objection. Unfortunately for you, Inspector, your objections carry no weight here. Huh? In this courtroom, only the prosecution and the defense have the authority to object. But Lord Van Zeeks, surely you're on my side, and, witnesses object all the time for dramatic effect. I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial. Ah! Bailiff, carry out the search! His mouth's wide open, check there first! Slow zoom in. Now hold on a mo. I don't know nothing. Nothing about no disc. Cut it out! Tear him apart. Ah! Here, my lord. In the witness's pocket. I found this. I'm pretty sure Gregson must have accosted him at some point. Good lord, that's another music box disc. I don't know nothing about it. Nothing. Well, you should have done a better job, Gregson. Maybe you should have kept it under your hat. Even Graydon is panicked. That is the second music box disc left behind by Magnus McGilded. Is it not, Inspector Gregson? Ugh. Ah! Order! 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 Mr. Skulkin, what do you have to say for yourself besides the plug-in of a controller? Gordon Bennett. Just Gordon Flamin' Bennett. I swear I didn't know nothing about that disc. Honest to God. And why were you sweating so much when I said that you need to be searched? Counsel, would you please explain what exactly is going on here? The alleged deal that was struck was between this witness and this detective, no? Without question, my lord. Then, for pity's sake, why on earth was this man in possession of the disc that Inspector had traded for information? Inspector Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who rarely loses his composure. But at one particular point in this trial, he exhibited some unusual behavior for a brief moment. I don't recall. What unusual behavior? It was... Yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon, I wrote it down right here. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbrokery that night, was it by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket?
I admit to nothing of the sort.
Yeah, right there. While Mr. Graydon answered my questions, the inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Skulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently. Yeah, he did and all. Thought me noggin was gonna fall off clean off, I did. I was wishing I'd been born as me brother, I was. And what exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that? I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me whistle like that and started shaking me. Why the blazes didn't you mention the third gun when we got down to the station? That's what he said. That's right. You had to write down my arrow, he did. Me head's still throbbing now. The way the detective behaved then was extremely out of character. But looking back now, it must have been then that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc. Well, bless my wig. He hid it? You. Inspector Gregson, I can't believe you're betraying me like this, but I'm afraid I failed to comprehend the motive here. If the detective had acquired the disc he was after, why on earth would he then proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? Because he knew I was getting close to the truth. This is a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence. It would appear, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that. Why ever not? As the man himself revealed earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions. Yeah. He's got to keep it all hush-hush. My orders were, recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT. Strictly hush-hush. Hey, that's the words I used. I guess it was in the back of my head. Hush-hush? A top-secret assignment, was it? As far as we're aware, the information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It would seem that if the information were to be revealed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector? I'm operating under strict direct orders from the Ministry. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question. So, realizing there was a chance that you may be searched here in court, you took steps to hide the disc you had acquired from the witness. Does this mean he only pretended to attack Mr. Skulkin in order to get close enough to him? To slip the second disc into his pocket? Wouldn't it have been easier to somehow request for a recess or gotten your hands on Gina Lestrade's smoke gun and planned your escape, Gregson? So it was all a pretense? Graydon? What say you? You seem awfully panicked as well. Well now, Inspector Gregson. And you, Mr. Graydon, I am very, very disappointed in you. Are you prepared to admit to the accusation made against you of this alleged deal? Come on. Spit it out. Admit to it? Yours truly. Please. Mr. Graydon, you seriously want to... Are you... I can't even put into words what I want to say. Are you imitating Alba right now? From Ace Attorney Investigation? You're just trying to prolong this trial as long as you can? Clearly our Eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof that I passed that disc to the inspector.
Objection!
No proof. I saw it right before my fucking eyes. But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole? I'm under no obligation to explain. Otherwise I'll have to lie again, and then I'll be charged under perjury. What? Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit. So sentence me accordingly. But that is all I admit. Murder? Leaking government secrets? Striking a deal with a detective? All of it is this young Eastern man's fancy. I have no idea what any of that is about. You... What? Why do I have to rely on a confession? Seriously? Oh, there we go. We recovered fast. Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? Do you admit to making a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc? Ladies and gents of the jury, as Scotland Yard Inspector, I will declare this and nothing more. I'm acting in the best interests of the country. Whatever I've done, it's been in the name of justice. So you can all sleep easy at night. So, as members of the public of this fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making your decisions. Wow, okay, just because I'm from the East, and I don't have any sway. What about this guy? Juror number 6. This is quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuousness in the concluding of a trial. This trial is concluding? Nevertheless, in the absence of any further evidence to be presented, I believe it is time that we put the matter to the jury for their final leanings. Well, now, as a fellow servant of Queen and Country, I must say I sympathize with the old inspector.
Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. In service, one becomes a good judge of character.
Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at this case. It's all blurred to me. Well, as a fellow professional, I'd like to put my faith in the detective, really.
Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop.
Uh-oh. Oh gosh, she's infatuated with him. Detective has very much trust in eyes. More than this, I cannot say. I don't believe it. These 6 jurors are incompetent as fuck. They're going to believe Gregson if they declare their decision now.
Is Ginny going to be found guilty?
All in the name of national security. If I don't manage to produce some definitive evidence right now, then we're going to lose. Either some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Winnebank or stole those government secrets. Or some evidence to force Gregson into admitting that he struck a deal with the witness. Do I have to choose something? Well then, counsel, I think it's time I impose on the jurors to declare their final decisions, no? That is, unless you have some compelling evidence you have thus far not presented to the court. If I let the judge call on the jurors to announce their leanings, Gina will be found guilty.
So there's no choice then, Reno. You have to throw some more evidence at them.
Throw what? I've thrown everything but the kitchen sink. Do I have to throw the kitchen sink at them? This is it now. It all comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against? Gregson or Graydon? Leave it to the jury. Yeah, that's a good decision. All right, I have to admit I'm really struggling here. Like, we have run out of evidence. Like, we run out of things to present. I've got Iris' story manuscript. I couldn't glean anything from it. I hardly think it's relevant right now. I think we've done all we can against Graydon. Everyone's believing Inspector Gregson. So I have to believe we have to present something against Inspector Gregson. Let's start with this. If it's wrong, we obviously know it's Graydon. It's definitely not. Leave it to the jury. Maybe we'll get some more clues about what we need to present if we select Gregson here. Inspector Gregson, there's one final piece of evidence I would like you to see. What's that then? If you refuse to acknowledge that you did in fact strike a deal with the witness here today, then you leave us no choice but to examine this piece of evidence thoroughly. Well, go on. This is my last chance. It looks like I'm going to have to force his hand here. One final piece of evidence to get this detective to admit to the deal he clearly struck with Graydon. Okay. Well, that didn't help. Do we ask him to play the disc or something? To prove that, you know, we need 2 discs to be put into this music box. Right? And that'll prove that he had to have struck a deal because he needed that music box disc. Maybe? Let's present and find out. If not, maybe the manuscript, but I seriously don't know what that has to do with anything right now.
Take that!
Okay. Is that Mr. McGilden's peculiar music box, counsel? Yes, with a disc already in place, ready to play. I think perhaps now would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time, with the second disc we've just discovered set in place as well! Alright. Goodness. This disc, counsel.
Hold it!
No, wait! I can't let you do that! Why not? Because, well, if you're not gonna do it, or if you don't want to do it, then admit you made a deal. Because it's got nothing to do with this case. That's why.
Objection!
Then let me play it. Not true, Inspector. Ugh. The defense has already proposed that the sounds heard by the court earlier from this music box were part of a Morse code message. Ugh. We know that Morse code comprises of 2 distinct tones. The defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone, needed to complete the message. And now we have a chance to confirm that theory. For crying out loud, sunshine, we're talking about state secrets here. If you go letting the whole courtroom hear confidential information like that, it's treason. Then admit you made a deal, you bastard. You twat. You scallywag. Then do you admit the charge? That in order to protect those state secrets, you engaged in unlawful dealings with the witness. You're mad. If you let that secret information out into the public domain, Well, you better take one for the team, Gregson, because Gina is, and she didn't ask for this. So, if you're gonna do unto her a punishment, why don't you be ready to accept that for yourself as well, you know? It's only fair. She'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot!
Objection!
I don't care, I'm going home tomorrow. Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness. That you continue to lie to the court, and all because, by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine. Don't you dare! I dare! This is like that freaking biker meme. I'm daring! I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of, whether it's the entire world. Well, since popcorn doesn't exist, I'm just gonna drink from my goblet. My lord, if you please. The court must hear the sounds made by that music box. Come on, Van Zeeks, for Pete's sake, stop him!
Objection!
He ain't helping you. Damn, even the legs coming out. This is going too crazy. Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. In this courtroom, my duty is to the law. So let me propose a toast. To uncovering the truth, by fair means or foul. Oh boy! Respect, Van Zeeks. No! He's on my side? What? Very well. The defense's stance here and that of the prosecution has been made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen as this music box is set in operation once more. Here we go. I'm gonna put your case to sleep. This time, with the second disc in place, and both discs playing simultaneously. Graydon doesn't look too happy either. Here we go. Wow, that's actually a pretty decent melody.
Oh, listen to that.
It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code! Hold it! Alright, I admit it! Whatever you want! But for the love of God, shut that bloomin' box up! God. It's a bit late for that now, isn't it? We've already played a substantial amount of the message, although I don't know how long the music box is. Surely there's a protocol for this, you know? Like, we didn't have to play it out in the open. I promise I'm not a Japanese spy trying to elicit secrets from your wonderful nation. But, like, couldn't the judge listen to it privately? Like, in his quarters or something? Just be like, okay, you know, this is obviously sensitive evidence. Inspector Gregson claims that it's for national security. I will listen to it privately. I will make a decision whether it's worth playing in court or not, or if he's lying or not, for instance. And if he's not lying, and it is to do with national security, I can verify its contents are pretty brutal. Or something like that, you know? In any case, let me ask you again then, Inspector Gregson. Now that you've had time to think about your decision, did you, or did you not, strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon? Specifically, did you furnish the witness with confidential case details in exchange for this music box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the peephole in the pawnbroker storeroom door, Inspector? Oh boy, you are in such deep shit, Gregson. The lengths you'd go to put Gina in prison. It's unfathomable. I'm disappointed in you. I thought you were a good cop. I did. Stop! What are you doing, man? It's all exactly like the young Eastern lawyer said. When the trial resumed after the recess, and we were stood here in the stand together, that's when he approached me with the deal. Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up! Uh-oh, don't tell me he's trying to stab him. Psst, you there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbroker the other day, aren't you? I may have something you're looking for, Inspector. With me at this very moment. So how about a trade? I suggest you accept. Or information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed. I couldn't let that information become public knowledge. Not under any circumstances. So I accepted the man's proposal and told him details about the case that should have put him in the clear. Peephole in the storeroom door, and the bloodstains on the overcoat. By giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that! Yet you still revealed those details to facilitate the witness's perjury! I did. And you're part of Scotland Yard, Gregson. You've just stained their reputation forever. But then it turned out the peephole had only been made that night after the incident took place. Scotland Yard was aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest. Great. Well, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? There's nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Too bad he sold you faulty goods, and I don't think the Consumer Guarantees Act doesn't apply here. Not that it applies anywhere but New Zealand. I don't know, you know what I mean. You know, commerce laws, where you can refund or return faulty products. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windebank! Ugh, you... Oh my gosh. Traitor! Oh god. Oh god, I thought he was trying to strangle him. Stop him! Gregson, hang on! Oh god. And we're just gonna watch? Bailiff! Bailiff! Restrain that man! At once! Whew. Alright. That's it then. It's all over. Wait, really? That's it? That's it? Surely not. Just because we've exposed him, we need to find out, like, who he's working for. I despised my life growing up. Those slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. Here comes the sob story. So I set about studying, to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole. And you eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination, but then you decided to try to sell government secrets. Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. Which is probably why he couldn't sleep that night and decided to rob the pawnbrokery. I wanted to drown them out, with more money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. Then one day, I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded, right, because he's a so-called philanthropist, right? You're a fiend with a queer talent, so you are. I have money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan now. Jeez. It's like you're making a deal with the devil. I was to steal the ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the ministry's communications office, it was a simple enough task. The lure of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb. Took the words right out of my mouth, Anziques. But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing. And because it's such a serious crime, you had to know that it would be thoroughly investigated, and you would eventually be caught. And for that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable. By using the music box. My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He was very skilled with his hands. He'd once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again, to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier. I see. Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, eh? He was a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man. But poverty had never broken him, never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason. So I made up a story. I've got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made. Music box discs, eh? A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. I've brought the score with me. There are two, actually. I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft. That's how I had him make the two discs, thereby splitting the information in two. You were taking considerable precautions indeed. Indeed. It was to protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with McGilded in two separate transactions. The first involved the first of the two discs and the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then, on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. Wow, that's quite a small down payment for a large payout sum. So, what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago? Was the second part of a deal? The exchange of the second disc? Yes. I'd sold the man information that way a number of times already. But it seems he became reluctant to part with his money. Oh, you were getting too expensive. But that doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. For why was it on that omnibus 2 months ago? Your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded and not yourself. When I received the 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. Right, and then why? He thought he'd cut out the middleman and approach McGilded himself? But my father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious. And when he did, he said to me, "Next time there's an exchange, you let your old man do it, understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore." Oh, maybe he went to lecture McGilded, and that's why he was like, okay, well, you know what, fuck you, stab. He probably thought Graydon had got cold feet and wasn't going to deal with him anymore, so he was trying to cut off a loose end. That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus, hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the discs I'd asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. Huh. It was only then that I found out what sort of a monster McGilded really was. So after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore on my father's name. To exact revenge. Revenge? So you set the thing on fire. As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine. McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish. My feet had barely touched British soil back then. Literally, it was like our first day. And I walked into that hornet's nest, completely unaware of the sinister background to it all. I'd made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then. So I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in this city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself had shown me that. Oh, so that's why you hired the Skulkin brothers to help you out with your break-in. I suppose you got what you paid for there, then. You must have blown a hefty amount of your bank account early on, and then you were left with the scraps. I can see that happening if you played any sort of management sim. That's a common problem, blowing your money early and not having much left for the end game. Are you saying that? I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything to his favor in this courtroom to ensure that he walked free, I took matters into my own hands and delivered the justice that monster deserved. That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man? So McGilded is dead. Everything's ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. What's this, officer? Just sooner than I was led to believe. I'm sorry inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. Asked if I could be present for it myself. Why? So that policeman who came to tell McGilded he could examine the omnibus again. That's right. An imposter. Hired by me. Well, we've seen how easy it is for an imposter to dress himself up as a bailiff. McGilded used his wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. I've done nothing wrong. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside and sent him on a one-way journey to hell. Huh. Just like that. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death. A spine-chilling account indeed. Indeed. But I respect it. But that wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see. A loose end? Yes. I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded. Ah, yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly because it had been removed from the scene of the crime. When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded, how he used the pawnbrokery to deposit some goods. Perhaps. This is the first of the 2 discs, and the music box you need to play them. Well, look at that now. What an ingenious little invention. Yeah, let's have a quick review. This is the box. That's the 13th of April. And this was on the 15th of April. Yeah, so that's how he came to know about it. So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man. What's this? Windemang's pawnbrokery? Aye, 'tis a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I've deposited there for you. There's no need to give a name. Just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend the watchword. I'll put a jewel in pawn for you. It'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so it will. I've never heard of a pawnbrokery being used in quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is like an extremely secure vault. Huh. Well, that answers that question. Quickly, we're getting some answers. So I knew that if he'd taken steps to hide the disc, it would be in that pawnbrokery somewhere. And that on the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yes, to Gina. I remember now. that when we first met you at Winterbank's that afternoon 2 days ago, you had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How did you know who you were looking for? From the trial. That pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilden's pawns, that he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced it would be her who had the ticket, so I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl would come out of the woodwork on the redemption deadline. And he was absolutely right, so he was lurking around, a vagrant, outside Winterback's pawnbrokery on the 15th. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl went to Winterbank's to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilden's overcoat and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing, because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier. But I was unaware of that fact. Had I not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion. Meanwhile, as our investigation into the stolen government secrets was progressing, we picked up on the fact that McGilden was involved. Inspector, you've recovered fast. Hardest way to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. So we started gathering the fella's possessions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard, but we had to keep it as quiet as we could. Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. Or, I become nervous. I was sure the music box and the second disc were still there in the shop somewhere. So I knew that it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did. So that's what prompted you to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers. Fucking useless they were. What happened that night in the pawnbrokery, I can only describe as a nightmare. You didn't intend to kill Winterbank. It just happened. While Nash and Ringo were searching the counter, I'd located the music box I'd sold to McGilden on the shelves of forfeited articles. And the second disc was inside. Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened. What are you doing in my shop? Something unexpected happened? The owner of the shop defended it? Wow, yeah, totally. I guess it was unexpected because he's always drawing the gun to his head. A gunshot rang out in the shop, and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm. The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced your limb. Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, I'd decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Bang right back. This was while he was running, obviously, because of the upward trajectory. Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I hadn't intended to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled through the storeroom door for refuge. A sorry, sorry tale. It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that happened at Winterbank's on that wretched night. Huh. Okay, so McGilden was dead all along. Killed by Ashley Graydon. He is the one who killed Winterbank and took the disc back. Seems pretty clear-cut, doesn't it, jury? Earlier, you called McGilden a monster. A man who used his wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony. Right? For what you have done is exactly the same. Just because Gina was one of McGilden's pawns doesn't give you the right to frame her. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilded. Yes, I think I have. Well, I admit I started to feel a little bit of sympathy towards Mr. Graydon at the end there. Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. However, it would seem that at last we have arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon? He's been restrained, my lord, and is being escorted to the yard. He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Winterbank and the stealing of government secrets. Very good. And you, Inspector, regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself. And so will Gina for perjury. Yes, my lord. Of course. It transpires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. The fact remains whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable. That sucks, man. He's gonna have to take the fall for Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard probably ordered it. They were like, okay, Gregson, you do whatever you gotta do. You stop that disc from getting into the public's hands, okay? But if we have to disavow you, we will. You're like a secret agent who's caught behind enemy lines. Sorry, we gotta disavow you. But looks like he knew that risk. Now to the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Yeah?
It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Yes, sir. Guard up squadron, standing by, sir. This is really it now. The last push, the final call, the finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Oh, good. I was kind of scared jurors number 4 and 6 would somehow cock it up. Because that's what they usually do. Okay.
That's the stuff! I'm off the hook! Finally, Reno! You finally managed to do it!
Finally is the word. Quite literally. I really wasn't sure if we'd come out on top for a while there.
Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world.
Well, you know, I'm pretty sure you haven't met many of them. Miss Lestrade, I am not finished with you yet.
Eh? What? What are you looking at me like that for?
Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider. 2 months ago, in my courtroom no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? And in relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Winterbank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGilden's property, it seems.
I've never done nothing of the sort.
Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGilden's coat in your cell yesterday or anything, covered in blood.
Aw, just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening.
And turning our attention to the defense, what did I do? Determining that, when played together, the music box discs contained a message in Morse code was... Well, it was certainly a most unexpected revelation, Counsel. I admire your convictions. Oh? Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast. To demanding that government secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom. Okay, well, very sorry about that. You know, I was desperate, okay? If he just took the deal, if he just admitted to the deal in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. It was the only way that I could get Inspector Gregson to admit what he'd done, so... If I may say something on that point. Isn't that...
It's, about the sounds produced by the music box before.
Sorry. I didn't realize I gave you such a low voice.
I do wonder if that was really Morse code at all.
Oh. What? What are you saying, madam?
Oh, well, it's just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much so that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to be in fact.
Goodness, madam. An unhealthy level of obsession, one feels. And yet, Ashley Graydon still panicked when he heard it.
But I must say that, in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs were nothing more than that. A meaningless series of two different tones.
What? Can that really be? I knew. There had to be something else. There had to be something else. It wasn't Morse code after all? But why did they both admit to it? Like, surely they would have realized that it was gibberish. Oh no, I've lost all my power! My lord, the defense would like to listen to the music box again. Are you off your nut? How many times do I have to tell you those discs contain ministerial secrets, Sunshine? This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know McGilded conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies. Secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further. But it's really going to bother me. Please. I know I suggested that the judge hears it in private, but I didn't mean it. I want to know. I need the goss. Miss Lestrade? Damn it. I can't believe they're really going to move. Why bring it up at all? If you're just going to tease us with that.
Yeah, my lord?
That which you have seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing. Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity. An appalling experience to befall any child.
Come on, it ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums.
I beg your pardon?
If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes.
Gina.
But look, I reckon I've worked something out today. The world ain't fair, but if you want it to change, you've got to start at home. You've got to change how you are yourself.
Oh, sage advice, Gina. Wow, you suddenly got wise. Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say, I suppose. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Miss Lestrade never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. Looking forward to you changing. I don't want to see you again. I suppose that's a good farewell, like I never want to see you again here in this courtroom. Witness or otherwise, because you're unreliable. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Winterbank, proprietor of a pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty! We did it! At long last, we did it! Gina, you're safe! Oh my god. We're gonna set fire again to the courtroom. Ah! She's launching! Wow. I thought it just dispersed smoke. I didn't realize there was also a rocket launcher. She has an RPG. That is all. Court is adjourned. Wow. Just us two, huh? Am I finally gonna get a glass? Just like Phoenix got his coffee at the end of Trials and Tribulations? Am I even old enough to drink? On a personal note, I must say you've surprised me, my far eastern friend. Good. Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense to the malice that festered within that Englishman. And at the same time, saw through the grime to the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considering our very different cultures. Yeah, well, humans are humans, right? We all bleed the same blood, which is probably what you're drinking right now. I don't think there's anything curious about it. I reckon if you were prosecuting in Japan, you'd have great success too. Probably because they have a 99% success rate. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, I suppose it's not as great because we don't say Great Japan. We're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside. Exactly. You know, I took this case for one very simple reason. That's right, because you were on hiatus too, weren't you? To lock swords with you once again here in the courtroom. You did? You wanted to cross swords? I mean, lock swords with me? When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me. of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese, only to find my trust betrayed. Oh? Who was another Nipponese that you trusted? Through you, I hope to look into the eyes of the man I once knew, and try to understand. You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. What happened exactly? Well, you may ask. And on one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer. Whether you like it or not. I'm pretty sure I'll like it. Alright, then I'll wait for that day, if I must. God, he just oozes cool. I love his theme, his style, drinking his goblet. I like how he's got his coat back on. Coming to be known as the Reaper of the Bailey. His nickname, for goodness sake. And my retirement from service 5 years ago. It gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my learned Nipponese fellow. Until we meet again. I mean, everything seems to have a purpose. The jury seemed rigged. For goodness sake. Everyone playing a specific role.